Good day, viewers. You welcome to Bosol TV. I'm Akambi R.O. Mrs., a civic education teacher. Today we have a topic, human rights. This topic is for senior secondary school category. And under this topic, we are looking at what we call UDHR. UDHR means Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But I would like to start from what is human rights. Human rights are basic rights and freedoms which all human beings are entitled to. Meaning, once an individual is being given birth to, he or she has an automatic right, is entitled to a lot of things. He has a lot of benefits to enjoy as a citizen. Examples of such rights are what we call political and civil liberties, which is right to life and liberty, freedom of expression and equality before the law. Now, let's look at UDHR. I said it earlier that UDHR means Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This declaration was adopted by United Nations Organization on the 10th of December 1948. The declaration was adopted by a vote of 48 in favor and none against, with 8 abstentions, meaning during the declaration 48 countries were in attendance. UDHR explains all the rights every human being is entitled to. Since its adoption in 1948, it has formed the foundation of the constitution of almost every country in the world. That is, almost every country in the world developed their constitution from UDHR. The major human rights policy and statements in many countries' constitutions come from it. The history of UDHR. Remember, I said it before that it was adopted in 1948. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the main international accumulation of fundamental and inalienable rights of all members of the human community. The UDHR represents the first comprehensive agreement among nations as to the specific rights and freedoms of the individual. But during the Second World War, the Allied forces met and adopted 4 freedoms, which I will mention now. The 4 freedoms adopted by Allied forces during the Second World War are freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom from fear, and freedom from want. However, with the ugly experience of the Allied forces, war with the Axis forces, that is during the Second World War, there was a contention, a war between Allied forces and Axis forces, especially that of Nazi Germany. There was need to put together policies that will ensure the protection of the rights of the individual. Nazi Germany, under Adolf Hitler, it trampled on many human rights, and as a result of that, the Allied forces were trying to put some things in place, a policy in place, so that such an action would not repeat itself. So, with their victory in the Second World War, the Allies wanted to ensure through the United Nations that such acts were not repeated. A Canadian, John Peter Humphrey, was called upon by the United Nations Organization to work on the project. He was given a project. He was asked to go and draft the principles of UDHR. And after the principle was drafted, the commission was headed by Eleanor Roosevelt of the United States of America. Don't forget, I said the principle of UDHR was drafted by a Canadian called John Peter Humphrey, and the commission was headed by Eleanor Roosevelt of the United States of America. Let's quickly look at the importance of UDHR. Why do we need this? Number 1, in order to ensure that the rights of the individual are respected and protected. there is need for adoption of UDHR. Also, to enable citizens to challenge the violation of their rights, UDHR was adopted. To ensure that every nation enshrines it in their constitution, that is, every country have it written in their constitution, UDHR was adopted. Another importance was that to ensure that Nazi-type dictatorship does not emerge in any part of the world again. They want to erase the leadership style of Nazi Germany. As a result of that, UDHR was adopted so that such a dictatorship will not repeat itself again. Also, to prevent human rights abuses throughout the world, both in peacetime and in periods of conflicts, the UDHR was adopted. Be it in a peacetime or during emergency period, they are trying to prevent the cases of human rights abuse. UDHR was adopted. Also, to uphold the principles of the rule of law and prevent dictatorship by limiting the powers of rulers, the UDHR was adopted. I believe today's class is interesting, and I believe you've gained one thing or the other today. Remember, I said the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, known as UDHR, was adopted by United Nations on 10th of December 1948. And I said during the Second World War, 4 freedoms were adopted. Don't forget. Also, I said a man was called upon, which is known as John Peter Humphrey. He was the one that drafted the principles of UDHR, and the commission was headed by Eleanor Roosevelt of United States of America. Always remember to subscribe to our page. See you next class. Bye.